Hey, good evening. I'm Dr. Barbara Polk, and we're going to be looking at proven ways to recruit, select, assign, induct, and retain a full staff of highly qualified educators. Hi, thanks for joining. You know, as I look through our Facebook group, Principals on the Come Up, I find that I did get some conversation about failure. And some of the comments looked like, well, that's the responsibility of the parents. And what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do as educators? And I really want you to think about this. And I want to talk about this before we go into recruiting, because recruiting is important. It's the time of year. I know that, you know, some of you are still huddled up and you're still, you know, cold. But February is coming. February is coming really, really soon, and it's going to be time for you to start turning in your recommendations for reinstatement or for contracts to be issued. But let's talk about the failure rate. Now, as I've taught before in our lessons, during this time of pandemic, we find that everything has changed. Everything has changed except the way we're teaching our students. And you know, we're saying that this is a good time. It's the best of times and it's the worst of times, like the Tale of Two Cities. But this is the best of times. So let's consider the way we are teaching our children. All right, so let's start with elementary. That's not really my focus. My focus is on middle school. My focus is on those middle schools that are struggling, or those middle schools that are in need of improvement. That's where I want to put my focus. But we're going to start with the elementary teachers, elementary principals. Elementary teachers, you know, whether they're face-to-face or whether they're online, they give the kids homework. Who's doing that homework? You know who's doing that homework. The parents are doing the homework. Now, is that right for parents to do the homework? No. Is it right for a child to do the homework and get it all wrong and then turn it back into the teacher and then they give you the grade of 100? And then they find that when they do some type of assessment, the child doesn't know how to do it. So what I'm saying to you, whether you are elementary, middle school, or high school, let's start doing things differently. We are not in the business of failing children. We're not in the business of failing children. We're not in the business of giving grades either. We are in the business of teaching children and helping teachers and helping children to learn. So let's consider for a minute, consider your, let's say your band class or your band teacher. He is starting out with the class. People are blowing horns. They sound terrible. So how about let's just give them an F. Let's give them all an F, okay? We'll give them all an F because they are terrible. But then when it's time for the spring concert, oh my goodness, is this the same group of kids? Well, why can't we grade on performance? If you are teaching, you are doing your checking for understanding. Give the kid a grade right then and there when you're checking for understanding. You know they understand that part. And then when you have your assessment, put your weight on your assessment. Now, is this going to cause some policy changes within your school district? You bet it is. You bet it is. But you as the principal, you can direct your teachers on what they should be looking at before they decide that they want to fail these children. And the other issue is that you have those who are not coming to school, or you have those that are not signing on. Why don't you pick up a phone instead of the robocall and find out what's happening with that child? Tell that child we miss you, especially if you're talking about middle school or high school. Yeah, we miss you. Come on in, because you know they're going to be failing for so long until they're going to decide, well, I'm not going back. Why should I go back? I'm so far behind, I'll never catch up. Especially our ninth graders. Our ninth graders for sure. Hey, Mr. Stewart, especially our ninth graders. We know that if that ninth grader does not have 5 credits by the beginning of the second semester, the chances for him or chances for her to drop out is great. And what is that going to do? That is going to cause an influx in or a greater chance for those children to have time with the juvenile justice system. They're going to end up, being involved with the police because they're out. They're out. Look at the number of kids that are showing up. Where is everybody? Are you just going to sit there and just say, well, they're not showing up? Oh, well. But you know what? This is going to be a generation that's going to come back and it's going to bite us in the butt because we had so many things going on. We made changes for everything with COVID except for the way we were teaching our children and except for the way we were looking out trying to find our children. Have our superintendents, have our teachers, have our principals. Have they done a good job? Oh, they have done a heroic job. But you know what? We have to go a step further. We have to go a step further. Here we are at a time when children have lost their time learning. Children who are poor, those children who are in an economic situation where they were already behind. And now with this learning loss time, they're going to be just that much behind. And guess what? Nothing is stopping. Things are still going on. So what we have to do, we're going to have to change our thinking principles. We're going to have to change our thinkings about how we are failing these children. And nobody is saying giving grades. What we're saying is you assess those kids as you go along. Assess them as you go along. Set some time aside. Figure out a way to make sure that they fail. Are you going to get 100% of them to participate? No, you won't. You've never been able to get 100% of them participate. But we can now. And guess what? This is not a local problem. This is a problem that's happening throughout the United States. There's been research that shows that 60% of the ninth graders and your high schoolers are failing. They were failing at the end of the first semester. So here you are, you gave all of those failing grades, hoorah for you. Do you feel good? They earned that. They earned that. Well, that's nice. What have you earned, principal? What have you earned, teacher? Are you figuring out a way to make sure that they get everything that they need? And that's where we are right now. We figured that we needed to wear masks. We figured that we needed to be 6 feet apart. We got all of that figured out. The pandemic hit. So when it comes to grading, the pandemic doesn't mean anything. We just failed. So let's look at how we are teaching our children. Let's look at another way to turn this around. Let's look at doing our checking for understanding. Let's grade our children on the performance, not the performance necessarily at the beginning of the instruction, but the performance at the end. And when you see they're not performing at the end, then be there to help them. That's all we're saying. Okay, now let's go to our proven ways to recruit, select, assign, induct, and retain a full staff. All right, you say, well, this is January. Why are we talking about that? If you know, like I know, if you are in a middle school that is in an area where it's kind of hard to get teachers, well, it's time for you to start looking for teachers right now. So, with the pandemic, you had teachers who started and then they left for all kinds of reasons. You had principals who started at the beginning and they left for all kinds of reasons. You have people retiring because of the pandemic. That was the hot topic, the pandemic. And guess what? The pandemic is nothing to sneeze about. That's a bad boy. That's a bad boy. And it has hit our communities so hard. It has hit our families. Everybody knows somebody who did not survive COVID. Everybody knows somebody who had COVID. Everybody knows somebody who was in ICU. Everybody knows somebody who's been in the hospital with the pandemic, with the COVID. It's real. It's real. And as educators, we have had lots of stress, lots of throwing hands up, lots of trying to adapt to the learning management systems, lots of training on how we teach these children face-to-face, using their computers, how we teach them remotely. It's an issue. Yes, it is an issue. So that means that if you're in an area that had a struggling situation with teachers in the past, you're going to have an extra hard time this time. But I do want you to know, that there are teachers right now in our alternative certification programs that are preparing to want to come to your school. They are doing that. So what you have to do, principal, you're going to have to figure out just what is it that you're going to have to do to get all of these people that you need, that you've had a hard time getting before, to come to your school. Well, the first thing you are going to do is to implement a recruitment strategies, ongoing and proactive recruitment strategies. So what does that mean? That means that you're going to have to start your own network. You're going to have to start singing the praises of your school. You're going to have to come up with ways for you to figure out, how can we get teachers to this school? How can we have our ears to the ground if somebody's working on their certification, and is there a way that we can assist that person? The second thing is to have clear criteria, protocols in place that aligns with your school's vision, mission, and core values. So you go out and you hustle and you find teachers that might be interested. They get their applications turned in, and you sit in front of them to do the interview, and you find that they're not a good fit. So before you even get to that interview process, principals, you have to have some protocols set. You're going to have a team set. You're going to have to bring in your best teachers, your teacher leaders, and you're going to have them to develop some protocols, some selection criteria, because you know the kind of teachers who you want in your environment. You know the kinds of community that you serve. You know the students that you serve. You know your school culture. You know your school climate, and you are going to be looking for somebody who's going to fit in, that will work out with your teachers. You need to reevaluate your vision, your mission, your core values. What are they? Reiterate those. If you don't, then start over and make sure you have a vision, a mission, and a core value. Otherwise, you're just shooting in the wind. You don't have anything to guide you. And the third thing is have your campus leaders implement strategies to support and retain staff, particularly your high performance staff. So if you have some high performance staff and you're looking at their scores and you're finding that, maybe Miss Melanson shouldn't be teaching social studies. She is a teacher who is great. She is a teacher who knows her content, but that social studies, that 8th grade social studies, it's just not working. It's just not working. So why don't you consider moving Miss Melanson to 6th grade history? Why don't you move? You say, oh my goodness, she's not going to want to move down there. Well, guess what? You're really, even for your high performing teachers, you cannot be afraid. Remember, you are here for the students. You're not here for the teachers. And if it causes you to have to move Miss Melanson from 8th grade social studies to 6th grade social studies, and that's what you're going to have to do. You're the principal. You know the vision of your school. You know the mission of your school. So you're gonna have to do that. That's what you're gonna have to do. So get with your human resources. If they're not sending the right people your way, then it's time for you to get with your human resource director and saying, I need this, this, and this. I need some choices. You have teachers who have friends who may want to work with them as a coworker, as a friend, but they're at another school. Try to get them. That's recruiting. Try to get them to come to your school. And don't wait until May and June where everybody has already made their decisions about what they're going to do. You need to have all of your teachers in place by July 1st anyway. You need to have some type of induction program. If you don't have the induction program, then make sure that your human resources or your district has some induction program. You need to make sure that you have a mentor, and I mean a good mentorship. Not just, you're going to be working with Miss Rita, and during her conference period, then she'll come and she'll check on you. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Look at your high performing staff, and you're going to have to lift those people up. You know, there is not a formula for you to be able to recruit teachers to go to your school. There's not a formula. There are steps that you have to follow, and it's a balance in that. It's a balance in that. For example, some of you have been using a substitute for the past 2 years. I'm talking to principals who have been in place for a year or 2 years in an environment where the school is struggling, and you couldn't hire anybody to teach that science. But Miss Miller is the one who you can rely on. Miss Miller is lacking everything but a certification, but for some reason she can't pass the test, and you know that's real. You know there are some people who just can't pass that test in order to get certified. But you keep her because she has been a good person for you. Sometimes you're going to have to go out and recruit for permanent substitutes. Sometimes you're going to have to go out and recruit for 2 or 3 substitutes that you know that you can depend on all the time. You need to let those people know right now that if we don't get anybody for this place, then we're looking at you to be in that place again next year. Because if you know that they're good, there are other people who know, people who are in schools in your area who know that that person is a good substitute teacher. And if they find out that you're not treating that particular substitute teacher right, or they don't know, they haven't heard from you to decide just whether they're going to be back or whether you're going to put somebody else in that place, they need to know, give them that respect. Let them know. And that's a part of your recruiting. So what we're talking about is proven ways to select, assign, induct, and retain a staff of highly qualified educators. There are ways that you can do that, but you have to make that a concerted effort that this is what we're going to do in order to be able to recruit. Look at your universities. Look at your service centers. You have to start looking. They're not just going to drop out of the sky. Plus, they're looking at you as a leader of that school. They're looking at the reputation that you have. They're hearing what other teachers are saying about you as the leader. I mean, and that's just the way it goes. Hey, Miss Caesar, so good seeing you. That's just the way it goes. So here we are in January, and I know I'm talking about recruiting teachers, but this is the time. First semester's gone. We're getting ready to start focusing on testing in many areas. We're not only looking at teachers, we're also looking at our counselors, we're looking at our assistant principals. We're looking at some people who you are thinking about recommending for non-renewal. And if you recommended somebody for non-renewal, you better have somebody to put in that place. You have people in the community. You got folks in the community who know you, and once you say, well, I'm looking to understand, you know, your daughter is about to graduate. Are they thinking about coming back home? I think I may have a place for them. Tell them to go and fill the application out. Let us look at her. Let us look at him. We're not promising jobs. That's recruiting. We're not promising jobs. But ultimately, what you're looking at is to be able to start your school year with a full staff of qualified teachers who are ready to teach children who are in need of instruction. They're in need of instruction. They're dependent on you. When you sit around that table with your team leaders, with your counselors, with your assistant principals, as a team, come up with some strategies. Come up with some recruitment strategies. What are your protocols? What are you looking for? What's the criteria? And align that with your school's vision, mission, and core values. What I want you to do right now is that there's some other people who need to be listening to this, who need to hear this. So if you can share this, share it, hit that like button, join Principals on the Come Up, so that we can get more information. Hey, Kathleen. So good seeing you, Kathleen. We're talking about Kathleen Fontenot. And just for a reference, when you're sitting around the table, and also for somebody like Miss Caesar, who was just on, those are the kind of people who know that it takes the leadership team to make things happen. Hey, Doris Rogers, good to see you. Congratulations on your granddaughter with her law degree. It takes all of us. It takes all of us. No child gets a law degree just working in a vacuum. It takes the parents, it takes the teachers, it takes everybody. It takes a desire. It takes a desire to want to get things done. You're just not going to sit back and just say, well, this is just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Nothing I can do about it. That's the policy of the school. So I have to follow the policy. But I don't think policies were made to hurt our children in instruction. I think the policies are there to give us some guidelines. And there were no policies that were written with COVID-19 in mind. There were no policies that were written for online instruction. There were no policies written for hybrid instruction. There weren't any policies written for that. There weren't any policies that says that you can't come to school unless you have a mask on. There's no policies written for that. But by golly, when that pandemic came, those policies came into place. So I'm going back to our burning desire to make sure that we have teachers in that classroom. You're going to have to recruit them. You're going to have to assign them into the right environment. And then once you get these teachers, then you're going to have to do everything it takes to keep those teachers. They're new. Some may not be new, but may be new to your environment, maybe new to your culture. But you have to work with them. You have to create an environment. You have to create a culture. You have to create a climate that's going to grow them, because research says that it takes 4 to 5 years to really, really develop a good teacher. And if you are in a school that is a low-performing school, where there are challenges, those teachers have other options. So you are going to have to create the kind of culture and environment that's going to want them to stay right there at your school. So get your friends to join Principals on the Come Up. And we're focusing primarily on those principals, those administrators who are in schools that either are in need of improvement, just got out of need of improvement, they're struggling. You know the history. And we are not in the business of failing children. We're not in the business of failing children. We have to figure a way to learn, to get them to learn, and get them to learn in class during instruction, and not waiting until summer school. I'm not waiting until it's time for a test. That's what we have to do. And when you do those kinds of things, when you look out for children, and when you look out for teachers, then you're going to have people trying to get to your school before you even start your recruiting. You're just going to be that good. And ultimately, all this is for the children. It's all for the community. Because that's what we're about. So today, as we close, let's think about the children that we are tasked to teach, that we are tasked to be administrators for, that we are tasked to be counselors for, instructional coaches, teachers, parents, because it's all one big circle. It's one big circle. I mean, all pieces of the pie count. Everybody has to play a role. And sometimes we know, even with our families, sometimes we have to play a bigger role. We have to take a bigger piece of the pie because we want the circle to keep going. And that's what we're going to have to do with our principals and with our teachers, with our administrators. So, Principals on the Come Up is our Facebook group. Share this, give me a like. So what do you think about this? What do you in the comments? Tell me why children fail. Why are teachers failing children? What are principals saying? Are they saying anything? Why are children not coming to school? Does anybody know? Does anybody care? What's happening to these children? Are we going to wait until the next generation comes along and they say, oh yeah, we remember when our numbers just dropped in half and we didn't see all these people? Do we want to know why they're not coming? That's my question. Can you answer that? In the comments, can you answer that? I mean, it's a serious business. Serious business. We're talking about an education. It's just that serious. I go into schools that are low performing to work with superintendents and principals to help teachers teach and help children learn. And I've had a pretty good track record. As a matter of fact, I've had an excellent track record. So I know what I'm talking about. And you can go to barbararaypogue.com and you can see just some of the things that I have done, and that we just want to continue to do that. We want to continue to do that. And we'll be having some sessions that will go into depth and tell you how to do all this stuff that I'm talking about. Just go on to Principals on the Come Up, barbararaypogue.com, Pogue Consulting, and give me a call. We'll talk about it. Kathleen, I do need to talk to you for sure. Doris, good seeing you. And Stu, deuces. All right, we'll see you next week, 5 o'clock. Principals on the Come Up. Bye.